Hello and welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Friday the 13th. My name's Eric Wilkinson, and yes, you very well recognize me from mainstream media as the Wolfman. I'm here to not only talk about the economic data and how that implements these markets, but to talk about options and how we can implement those into our trading regimen on a given day, all right? I go into more detail on these different option strategies, the right environment, the right types of underlyings we can trade these options in and around, and when is the appropriate time to implement those types of strategies. A little bit more detail, like I said, in those webinars. In this, I'm going over these option strategies. I'm not cherry picking what trades I do. As a matter of fact, we're probably going to talk about the strategies that are working against us, or the trades that are not working in our favor, more so than we are talking about those winners, because those come and go easily. So last night I did one on the synthetic short stock. Trying to get that all out of my head. So I'm going to talk about implementing one of those types of strategies in today's market commentary, all right? But without further ado, let's get on with the economic data so that we can get a bit of an understanding as how the overall economy is going to do and how that's all implementing or impacting the markets. We got retail sales, core retail sales coming in at 0.1%, expected to be 0.4%. Now, core retail sales strips out automobiles and transportation because that's a little bit more volatile and seasonal. That being said, we would expect to have seen this number be a little bit better, especially with the unemployment numbers that we've seen and some of the other economic data points coming in, starting to show a little bit more of an economy that's starting to pick up a little bit. This number really not showing that the retailer is getting out there and buying. Now, one thing to note, Thanksgiving did come towards the very end of November. This is a November number, but I would have still expected this number to be a little bit better, especially with some of the good economic data that we've been seeing, and that's really not a very good sign, to be quite honest. And then we got retail sales coming in at 0.2%, expected to be 0.5%, so people aren't buying cars either. Importer prices unchanged for the most part. We are going to be getting retail sales, which I believe we should have gotten retail sales. Yeah, we got retail sales coming in, business inventories coming in unchanged. They did revise last month's number down a little bit by 0.1%, but business inventories in line with expectations. Like I said, importer prices unchanged. All right. Without further ado, let's get on to the overall markets. We've got crude oil went into the 60 handle today. It blew up and above that value area high, which starts getting a little overextended. I talked about this. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of price being accepted above $60 or in that 60 handle. And with this core retail sales and the retail sales number adding in those automobiles, people not necessarily buying automobiles either, we're seeing a little bit more weakness throughout the day. It's still a positive in the 59 handle, but back into the value area. We talked about that. You get outside of those value areas, that's where people will start to cover. This is in a bullish market, though. There's no doubt about that. But I do believe that the market has kind of realized that 60 isn't really attainable, or is really just a little bit too frothy. All right, we've got gold moving higher. A lot of this is people putting money back into the safe haven after yesterday we got news that China was coming to the table. This is a typical buy the rumor, sell the fact. While buying the rumor on that trade deal, the trade deal did come through. There are some little caveats to it that are causing some angst in the markets, but they have said that they are going to be buying some pork and soybeans. One thing to note, Brazil actually, fun fact here, is now the global producer of soybeans. It used to be the United States. They are now taking over that lead on producing soybeans. Something to note that has to do with the fact that they're ripping down the rainforest to monetize that land by growing soybeans, so that's not a good thing, really. All right, bonds up 1.5 on the day, retracing almost all of yesterday's losses. Thing to note here, came down and tipped off on that 200-day moving average, and really lining up with that 154 handle, 154, 155 handle, but then started seeing this resurgence, a lot of talk coming out of the Fed governors. They aren't going to move interest rates. July was expected for maybe a 25 basis point cut. That's starting to be pulled back a little bit on those probabilities of that rate cut. And that's really, we're seeing the long end of the curve start to move higher as well, based on some of these Fed governors coming out and talking about interest rates. All right, VIX is spiking a little bit. We're back into the 14 handle, up 36 cents, if you will. And we're seeing the Dow Jones start to lose a little bit of that momentum that we saw yesterday based on this China deal. So we're starting to see, we did see a new all-time high yesterday and then again today, but we're seeing the weakness. And as you can see, the Dow Jones basically on the lows of the day. NASDAQ not on their lows of the day and close to unchanged, down 6 points as we speak, but another all-time high happening there. We can go and look at the chart here and take off the overnight, and we can see that the overnight high is 150, or the daytime high, I'm sorry, is 85.46. So that is a clean number there. We can see that the overnight traded just a tick above that. That happened right before the open for the most part. Again, in the E-mini S&Ps, that overnight high printed overnight, as we'll see here. You can see overnight highs printed open up on the pop. You know, this is on the trade deals happening, and before the open, this is when they announced the trade deal was successful, but some of those caveats happening. So keep in mind, these overnight highs are going to be wanted to be printed during the day session, but it doesn't look like we're going to go up there and try to print those highs, at least today. The market's really starting to, lose momentum, it feels like, as the day wanes on. All right, so with that being said, I was looking in the webinar to do TLT as my synthetic shorts, but it's not looking like I want to do that right now, especially with the equities kind of peeling off on these highs. But I do think that Boeing is going to continue to suffer, and it looks like I got a good price location. It felt like I was chasing this market all morning to try and get filled on this. But in Boeing, I did the synthetic shorts, which basically we're going to the at-the-money calls. We're going to sell one at-the-money call for every one at-the-money put we buy. Same strike. We're just trying to build that out to be 100 deltas, all right? And the reason why we're trying to build it out to be 100 deltas is so that it acts exactly like the underlying, all right? So I did that, and I went into the March. Give myself enough time to be right here. Went into the March and sold the 245 calls in there for 10 cents. So I basically chased that for almost $1.50 today on that move down throughout the day. We started out, it was a little bit bullish, and as soon as we started going into negative territory, I started chasing that market and finally got filled right around 145. So that trade looking pretty good right now. Who's to say? But I think that we're going to see Boeing continue to lose orders. Somebody else just announced, I think it was American Airlines, just announced that they aren't going to fly the 737 MAX until at least April. So a lot of people really pulling away from that and going with Airbus's new airplane, which actually has a longer range than 737 as well. So that's about it. Added that short to it. Haven't done anything else with any of my other trades, just kind of sitting on those. And hope everybody has a great Friday the 13th. And if you can't take that, take it easy.